listening to the Medic Materials Podcast, hosted by Mike Turek, Emily Yates, Kelsey Coons, and Gerard Cuomo. All are current EMS providers and educators with a combined 30 years experience. Each month, we discuss EMS news, medical science, and review actual EMS calls, bringing many educational opportunities to the listener. Portions of the calls have been altered to protect the privacy and identity of all involved.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the Medic Materials Podcast. And Gerard,
How are you already losing it?
Because Gerard's distaste is coming through the phone.
Right, just
Dude,
through Skype.
It's even worse. It's even worse over Skype.
It's phenomenal. Oh my God. All I hear is, well, you're listening. Fuck. Right in the middle of the intro. So here I am thinking okay, there's a person who's never listened to any episode of ours ever.
That's going to be the
and
one
this is the first episode that they turn on because it's the first one that pops up in their feed. Dun, 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 dun. You're listening. Fuck. It's great. Oh man.
Hey, and if they keep listening, then you know that they're the kind of people we want to have listen to us.
This is the podcast I should be listening to.
Yeah, we
this
should say that, right? This is the podcast for you.
Here's your sign.
Yeah, right. So I am sitting here with Emily. Finally,
I know. I'm sorry.
We've got a badass over here.
I gave you your own soundbite just for you
It
because
should say you have a day off.
Yeah. Finally.
Exactly.
You guys are joining me via Skype, which is awesome. And we're gonna kind of piggyback off of our last conversation that the three of us had for last episode on April 15th, where we talked all about the toxic heroism aspect and educational standards and how to fix those education standards to try and give us, a forward progression in the industry. And this month I wanted to start off by talking about how the National Registry is phasing out their practical skills exams, so their PSEs. And I think, being that we are all educators in some form or fashion, we've all done PSEs, we've all gone through them, we've all proctored them.
Is this going to be a written?
Yeah, right? What? I think it lends itself to, there's three camps on this issue. There's the camp of you absolutely need the sheets, don't ever get rid of these things. There's the camp of we need to get rid of these things. And then there's the people that are somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And I think it'll just lend itself to an interesting conversation to see what you guys think about this. So, Kelsey, let's go to your rig check, and then we'll get started.
So I thought I was ready. I need another 36 seconds.
Only 35. That's all we can give you.
I mean, if I had the Jeopardy thing programmed, I'd be...
Okay, I'm ready.
That was way quick.
That was like 6.
That was like a man. I'm not even going to go any further. You can use your imagination. Boom, done. Keep going.
And we're ready.
Why are you still here?
Get him out of here.
I hate you all.
I'm just picturing Kelsey's dad what the fuck is she in? Why is she doing this?
Are you kidding me? He's laughing too. He knows. It's hilarious. He's a guy.
So guys, as most of you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This job is definitely not without its stresses, and just because it may be considered a part of the job doesn't mean that we as providers can't seek help to find better ways to cope with the things that we face on a daily basis. Whether it's going to be one call, a buildup of calls, or maybe it's something not even work-related, there are people out there to help, and this is nothing to be ashamed of. We're all in this together, as every single one of us faces this at some point, on some level, at varying points of our career. If you would like help or need assistance, reach out to Operation At Ease or the Code Green campaign using the links below for accessing resources. Also, if you want to look back and you're unsure what Operation At Ease, our May 1st episode of last year, we talked with Joni. She was a first responder who helps with bringing professional service dogs to veterans, first responders, nurses, that sort of thing. And our May 15th episode was about the culture of stress and actually like the biological changes that your brain is going to undergo when you do this job. So both are really great episodes to listen to in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. And those resources are available to you at any point. There is no timeline on this sort of healing process, even if that hits you 2 years after the call happened. Reach out. We're all in this together. We're all in this to help figure it out. And we are going to shout out our listeners in Washington and Sweden today. So thank you guys for listening. And May's going to be a good month.
That was a year ago.
For sure.
That was a year ago.
I feel like that was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Holy shit.
yeah, time flies. Time utterly flies. It's crazy.
It's not on our side.
Yeah,
Nope.
right. And you know, it's funny. I did a post for May 1st, and you know, it went up and everything, and boom, Joni right there, like, you know, you guys are not alone. Like, you know, she's very,
I gotta tell
just
you,
as much as we are committed to her, she is just as committed to what first responders do all the time.
and
you
if
know?
you're not privy to that, follow her Operation Eddie's Facebook page because she gives you updates on all the people that she's helping, and it's incredible.
It really is.
She is an incredible woman.
Yes.
And even if you don't feel like reaching out to her, reach out to somebody, anybody.
Reach out to us.
yeah.
We talk about nothing.
I mean, we
Look at
talk
our
about,
podcast.
we talk a lot about nothing. But no, I mean, realistically, you know, and we've said it last month, or last year in May, we'll say it again. There is never a time where if you feel like you need to talk to somebody about something and you text or, you know, instant message or whatever, the medic materials page, it comes right to my phone. Like, I will see it, and it's not like you sit there and go, I need help. I'm going to start talking to you. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, fuck that guy. Like, whatever. No, that's just not who I am. And I will do everything in my power to find you a service in your area. If, like, I don't care where the fuck you're from. I will Google the shit out of it until I can find something, you know? So do reach out. Like, if you need to talk to somebody, reach out, you know? It's just, it is the way that, it is the way this industry is. People are afraid to reach out because they're afraid of what might happen to them. And none of us here play like that.
Nope.
Not a one, you know? So yeah, take the opportunities, use the Code Green campaign is fantastic because they can put you in touch with services inside your area. So they're fantastic in that way. They don't provide the service, but they can find you a service that will help you in your area, you know? And Joni, she's been, you know, doing fabulous work with the service dogs and the, you know, and these are rescue dogs, and they're just, it is a phenomenal program. So if you feel like, you know, you have like symptoms of PTS and you could utilize a service dog, you know, reach out to Joni, because literally you put in an application, you meet with them, and maybe you're eligible for this, and then you get free training with this dog that becomes yours at the end, that
And
can
she's there to
literally
support
save your
you.
life.
She's there to support you through the entire journey. So,
Right.
like, yes, your dog is trained. You know, I think it's a year-long program.
Yeah.
But after that, it's not like she wipes her hands with you. She's
Right.
there every step of the way. Any vet bills that pop up, like, she's willing to help you with it. She is a phenomenal resource.
Yeah.
And the Code Green campaign, same idea. They are so responsive and they're so down to earth. They're just very cool.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why I support them wholeheartedly. Like, there has never been another I'm sure there are programs out there that, you know, we could get behind, and you know what, if you're part of them, let me know about them.
Yeah, for real.
Because I will support them. If, you know, if they're within our values, I will plug them till I'm blue in the face,
100%.
you know? Because that's what we need. You know, we need to raise the awareness, and we need to,
Get rid of the stigma.
you know, get rid of the stigma. And I'm really, really hoping that the large surprise that I'm hoping that will happen for the next episode actually happens. If it does, you guys are going to be flipping off the chain. If not, I will make it happen another day, and it'll just be a later episode, but I will make it happen. But that will really put into perspective the mental health crisis in and around, pre-hospital providers and stuff like that. So, so moving on from that, going into this, PSE talk. So just, really quick, I don't want to hear any opinions. I just want to hear, are you for, against, or kind of in the middle of getting rid of the PSE at the EMT and paramedic AEMT level? So I'll start first. I'm going to say I'm kind of on the fence in the middle. Where are you at, Em?
So I'm with you. I am in the middle.
What about you, Gerard?
No,
Don't get rid of it.
Don't get rid of it, or get rid of them?
don't get rid of it.
Don't get,
Oh,
okay.
interesting.
All right.
Okay.
I can't wait to hear that opinion. I really can't. Like,
I really thought you were going to be
I
with
don't
us
think,
on that, actually.
and honestly, I don't think anyone is wrong
No,
in
I
their
don't either.
thinking here, because this is uncharted territory.
Yeah.
So, Kelsey, where are you in these? Since you are
Currently going
getting
through
ready to do your practical for ALS.
Well, first of all, I would like to make it very known that I'm angry that if I'm the last year that has to take it. But
So you want to get rid of them?
well, I can see both sides, but I feel like knowing what I know about how they want to formulate getting rid of them, I don't hate it. And knowing what they want to replace it with, I don't hate it.
See, I don't know what they're wanting. All I know is you
Also
guys
can
are saying
see
that
the
they're getting rid of
fallback
it.
issue.
Yeah, so Kelsey, being in that,
To know it.
you're right, you're like in the know, like, what have you heard? Because the articles that I've been reading, and I pulled one up just so I could read some context out of it, they are very vague in what they're actually going to replace it with. So there's nothing that I have actually read that says specifically, this is what we're looking to do. All they kind of say is, this is what we're doing by 2023. Like they want mid 2023 to be the rollout of they're gone. So what have you heard that is going to be replacing the current PSE system at the national level?
So, I mean, this is all through theories, through, like, things that my, program currently is implementing this year to change things to make it easier for them. And, I mean, no offense to New York State, but it's New York State, so they could do a complete 180 and pull something that they never actually, explained to anybody, and now nothing is the way it seems.
Sounds
but
like
the
New York
way
State.
that it's
Sounds
appearing
exactly.
to look... What?
Sounds like New York State.
Yeah. But the way it's appearing to look is basically throughout your year, so take your paramedic school year. Throughout your year of paramedic school, you're going to have sign-offs for all of your skills. So New York State requires you to have some arbitrary number of whatever. So they've decided that you need 24 adult intubations, 24 pediatric intubations. So when you go through paramedic school and lab, you basically get sign-offs by your instructors. You can do peer sign-offs, instructor sign-offs, however your program regulates it, that take intubation skills. My instructors have witnessed me do 24 successful adult intubations. So then that skill is signed off. And then I would sit in front of my head lab instructor, show him I can do an intubation from start to finish. I get a signature on a piece of paper saying that I am proficient in that skill. And it would go through all of your skills, through your cardio versions, through team leads. So I've team led 4 geriatric strokes. I've done 7 OBs. I've done 12 deliveries. I've done 172 pediatric intubations or 35 IOs, whatever the number that New York State sets. I have done a live stick shown with aseptic technique, no signs of infiltration, properly secured, the whole 9, signed off by whoever runs my lab program. So the skill portion is going to be everything signed off. Now, in New York State, they also require you to be able to do patient exams. That's a part of it. They also require you to do obtaining histories, your sample, your OPQRST. Those are all also sign-offs. So everything from your basic ABC skills to your patient exam is all going to be signed off by your instructors. So instead of at the end of the year going in and doing like a head-to-toe trauma assessment, I will have done 30 head-to-toe trauma assessments throughout the year, all done successfully, all signed off on.
Yeah, so
And,
go
and
ahead,
all
Gerard.
in a classroom environment.
Exactly. That's my
Yes.
issue with it.
But
Yeah.
at the same point, what is the
But that is only your lab sign-off. That has nothing to do with your clinical time or anything like that. That
Right,
is only
right.
what gives you your lab credit.
right? So you
To
still
me,
would
there-
need
there's-
X amount of patient contacts in the field, leads, cardiac monitoring, IV skills, assessments, blah, 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 in the field, just like you would now.
Yep, and then so basically instead of coming in for one day and doing, your trauma assessment, your medical assessment, and sitting there and doing it, I believe in theory they're still trying to keep the integrated out-of-hospital scenarios.
Yeah, so that's one of the
But I
things.
don't know if that's incorporated into a day or if you have to have 12, 20 minutes integrated out-of-hospital scenarios signed off for the year. I don't know if that would be like an at the end of the year thing or if they're going to leave that up to like the program and be like, they need to have 15 successfully done. We don't care when they get done, how they get done, get them done.
So go ahead, Gerard. You were going to say something because right now I'm looking something up.
No, I was just going to say that, I wouldn't be opposed to it as long as there was something at the end where you had to come in for a day. And I'm not a big fan of the stations and all that stuff. And okay, show me how to freaking bag and all that crap. Because, if you don't know how to bag by the time you get to the end of a paramedic course, then you're a fucking idiot and you shouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah, but how many people fuck that up?
Oh,
How
no,
many-
because they're so focused on patient assessment and doing all the hard
because
stuff,
they're
you always
just
forget
so
about the easy
stressed.
shit and they always fuck it up.
Part of the
but
thing that I like about the skill station is that you automatically have this increased stress. And you're like, okay, this is,
That's
we
where I
used to
was
call it
going
like a
with
do or die day. And like, okay, if I fail this, I am done.
Right, and that's where I was going with it was there's something to be said about performing under stress and
Right.
being able to see what someone's going to be like when they're, they've already smoked a half a pack of cigarettes before 9 a.m.
Right.
And they're fucking, they're wigging out.
So I think that is the
if they
only
did-
reason that I would be completely okay with them continuing to have it. Because, like, in my mind, if I've done 100 intubations throughout the year, why do I have to sit in front of another lab instructor and do one again? But at the same time, I also understand because, like, if I can't do it in that moment when I'm in a controlled lab, but I'm freaking out because this is my make or break moment, I'm also probably never going to be able to do that in a really critical patient with a really bloody airway or XYZ that happened. And I think that is the only reason that I'm okay with the fact that they would still keep them. And I understand the alternate argument where it's like, okay, well, everybody gets nervous taking a test. Like, why would you want your entire career based on one day? And it's like, okay, great. But, like, my patient, their entire life is based on my one day.
And your entire career
what
is
I would-
based on high stress.
Yeah.
Right. What I would do for the one day is, get rid of this, the stations for this, that, BVM, fucking all that crap. Get rid of all that shit and do multiple stations like that, the out of hospital scenario. Do scenario based examination. So, coming into the day, you're going to have a cardiac scenario, you're going to have a respiratory scenario, you're going to have a holy shit, what the fuck is this scenario? And then maybe, one other weird one thrown in there, diabetic, something off the freaking cuff. But when you get your card to go to a freaking, go to a station, you don't know what you're walking into. And you have to figure that shit out on your own. They don't say, okay, you're going to the cardiac station. No, you're going to a fucking, room 4. Have fun, Yeah, and I think that, because then you're going to be demonstrating your skills. You're going to be demonstrating your clinical judgment. You're going to be demonstrating all that shit that you can measure right then and there. And I don't need you to have, okay, you're going to the BVM station. Here you go. Okay, BVM, breathe, breathe, breathe. No, fuck that. Put them in a scenario, set the fucking room up, like it's some shitty, trashy fucking, single wide. And here you go. Have fun.
Yeah, I
think that would be more beneficial.
I agree. So, like I said, I'm kind of in the middle, in that I agree with a lot of what has already been said, in that I want to see the practical skills move from a BVM station, a CPR station, a splinting station, a whatever skill or, place oxygen on your patient station, to those are signed off in class prior to your last day, right? Because we can practice those every single week, and we can go, okay, you need 25 successful sign-offs to say, this is your final sign-off. Perfect, done. You're awesome. You've got this. You will do it right every single time.
I would use the sign-off. Yeah, I would use the sign-off thing as this is your. You have to have all these different sign-offs to go and take the freaking final exam. To go take the POC.
Do it for
If
strictly
you don't get
skills.
signed off, you don't get to show up that day.
Right.
So like you know how like right now we have like in New York State, again, I don't know how other states do this. But New York State has it broken down that when you start an EMT class, you have to pass the class to then sit for the practical skills. You have to pass the practical to be able to sit for the state final written. So why don't we go, okay, if we have a midterm and we have a final, right, for first and half of the semester, right? Now you're cutting that final, that written final, the class final in half. And the other half is skill-oriented or scenario, or like I would rather see, a scenario, out of hospital scenario, 20-minute, 30-minute, whatever, give you 3 of them. Have one be a trauma, have one be a medical, have one be, like a cardiac arrest situation where you can work in BVM, peds, a special type of patient, Down syndrome or whatever, elderly, whatever, and you can work in splinting and your med dosages and extrication and all this other stuff as your like big final sign off. Like, yep, you've made it through these. Cool. You can sit through. We've already signed you off on all your skills throughout this semester. You've passed these. So now you can go sit for your state final without a practical in the middle.
Yeah. And like I was going to say, the best part about that is it's not just show me your monkey skill. It's
think this through.
I'm actually going to get to see you make, judgments. I'm going to see how your brain thinks.
Yes.
Right. You're critical thinking, and okay, you want to put a traction splint on, okay, and they show and they demonstrate how to do a traction splint, but hey, guess what? It was a freaking hip fracture, so yeah, you're stupid.
Right. And honestly, there's been a few articles that there's nothing that is set in stone for what the NREMT board in Cincinnati is doing with this. But I've read multiple articles getting ready for this that said this is what they're looking to do, is kind of a 3 scenario out of hospital, 20, 30, 40-minute scenario, whatever it might be, that covers all of your stations combined into one. So like I'm all for it. You'd have your CPR and your BVM station combined into one. For medical, you'd have your med dosages, maybe you'd BVM them, maybe this, that, the other, your oxygen, your assessment, all of that is combined into one, along with your trauma, like your splinting, for medics, maybe your intubation or your needle decompression or your IOs are in there. Like, it's all combined into one 20, 30, 40-minute station. And I'd be okay with that.
If they were... Yeah, I'm for that too. I mean, I was gonna say, and if they would make them all like, because I think we were the first class that had the out of hospital scenario.
Yeah, we were.
And if they would do them all like that, where, okay, this is how much time you have. Somewhere in that time, you have to make a decision to transport.
Right.
So remember how they did it, where they kind of set it up like an ambulance.
Yep.
So yeah, do the same thing, because now you're actually getting to see, okay, yeah, they can do all these skills and stuff, but now they also have to demonstrate the ability to understand, their situation and know what's going on around them. And hey, you know what? We've been here for a while. I think my patient's stable enough. Let's get the fuck out of here and go.
Right.
And now you're transporting. Now what are you going to do during transport?
Right.
You know, now you can throw some fucking weird vitals and shit at them. I go, okay, now you're bouncing down the road. What are you going to do?
Right. And it's funny that you bring up that type of, what we did and how we practiced the first out of hospital scenarios. Cause I remember when they brought that up and they were like, yep, you're going to, we're shortening the ALS thing, but we're putting in this NREMT thing that they're thinking about doing years down. And like, this was 5 years ago, and now here it is coming to the present and the forefront. And it's like, I was petrified at this station. And it's funny because I had never once failed an AEMT station. Never once. And the first station I ever failed was my out-of-hospital scenario because I was fucking retardedly stupid and I didn't do something that was a BLS thing to do.
Yeah.
But they rightfully failed me, and I was like, yup, you got me. That was pretty stupid. But I started using those for the EMTs, even though the EMTs don't have to do them. Just because it's great to make them sit there and go, because, how often do we teach okay, yep, we're going to transport now. Okay, cool. Boom, you're at the hospital. Or I would take vitals every 5 minutes. Okay, you
just got your ass miracled to the hospital. It's
and poof,
amazing.
Poof, magic, you're there. Okay, cool.
Right.
Well, here, if you're 20 minutes full scenario and you're like, okay, I'm going to transport, extricate them out of the house, put them on the stretcher goes in the ambulance, you lose your partner now, and they go, okay, you're going to start transporting? Yes, I'm going to start transporting. Cool, you have 8 minutes left. You have 8 minutes left. You could sit there and stare at your patient and do paperwork like a fool, or you can do 2 sets of vitals, give a radio report, do a second assessment, look at your interventions, and utilize your 8 minutes like you're supposed to.
But how many providers do you see that never reassess a patient?
But that's it.
And where do you think that came from? Because in every scenario they've ever been taught, you do everything you do on scene, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to transport now. Great, you're at the hospital.
Right.
Cool,
okay,
I didn't have
next.
to do anything.
Right, because
exactly.
the rest of it, check your interventions, reassess every 5 minutes, and repeat vital signs is all verbal. You don't ever do it.
Right.
It's the same thing as BSI scene safe with your fucking, happy hands.
Jazz
hand. Yeah.
It's the same thing. So, that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on is the education. We have been teaching people to the practical for ever. Literal since the day of inception of EMS, we have taught people
to pass a test.
This is how we're going to pass a practical. This is not how to critically think about how to treat your patients. And we all sit there. Gerard, how many times have you said it on this show alone? Fantasyland versus reality land. Because there is a difference. We all sit there. I'm guilty of it as a head educator where I've gone in and be like, yep, guys, we're going to do it this way.
To pass the test.
Because New York State will fail you if you don't, but I really want you to do it this way because that's what's not going to kill your patient.
But that's what I was just going to say. How many times do you sit in a class and they're like, you only have to know this to pass the test. Once you're done with that,
forget
you'll
it all.
Learn the real world.
Right.
Well,
why are we teaching that?
That's bullshit.
That is absolute bullshit. You look at any other profession. When you go to a trade school and you learn plumbing, does the plumber go, yeah, you gotta make sure that you fit this pipe in, this way for the state test to get your certification as a plumber, but don't ever do that for a copper pipe out in a house. No.
Right.
No other trade does that. Not one. Why are we?
Because that's what we've always done.
And that's the problem. Fuck what we've always done. We if there's anything that we've learned from our show, it's to fuck what we have always done.
Yeah.
There needs to be a change.
And by the way, I the 12-year-old in me picked up on it, but I kind of bit my tongue, but I did pick up on the you know, you're the head instructor.
Oh yeah!
Thanks.
You're welcome. I just wanted to put that out there.
So
You gotta pay extra for that.
Children.
we have Emily back. She's calling us children.
Children. Kelsey, I'm with you.
Yeah, they are literal children.
We are the entertainment arm of this show. Thank you very much. All right.
It's all I got in life anymore.
How
Go
did
ahead.
you three raise me?
I didn't raise you.
I was raised by 2/3 children, 3/4 children if we throw Corey in.
Oh, yeah. I only have known you for like 2.5 years.
It qualifies. You're my preceptor.
So it must have helped that you started with me.
We have half the EMTs convinced you're my actual dad.
That's great. That's seriously.
Sorry, Dad.
That is actually creepy. Like, we were did you hear this story?
No.
Oh, Kelsey, you got to tell Em this story because it is creepy and hilarious all at the same time.
He said something to me, and I was like, yes, Dad. And one of the EMTs looks at me, and she's like, is that your dad?
Did you
And
go
he,
with
with the
it?
straightest face ever, just goes, yes.
I did.
I can't.
Which equally starts a bad precedent, but I thought it was hilarious at the time. But you know, circling back to education, so like, you know,
Oh, you're gonna circle back?
I'm gonna circle back.
All right.
So really circling back to the education part, you know, we teach, you know, all the time we tell our students, memorize the sheets. It's what you're going to be tested on. You have to know your sheets. You know, some instructors give them on day one. Some instructors give them halfway through. Other instructors wait until 3 weeks before. Like, but there's always that you got to know your sheets. Memorize your sheets. Hey, guys, even if I'm not telling you, go online and find them and start studying them in private. Like, but that, I love the sheets for the reason that when they give you the process,
They give you the base.
they give you the foundation
Yeah.
so that when you are like over, you know, you are sunken in, you're well above your pay grade and you're freaking out, you have something to
Exactly.
go, okay, what was my base? A, B, C. Okay, cool. Let's go back to that.
Right.
But there's no critical thinking in that.
And
it's
you
just
see that in the
airway.
providers, though.
And you see it in, yes, you see it in the
100%.
providers. So how do we move the needle in still utilizing the sheets or not utilizing the sheets? Like, how do we get the better provider that still knows the foundational process but can critically think through the process?
I don't think you take the sheets away. I think you need them. You need them to provide that foundation to these new providers so that when they're in their first year and they're like, I have no fucking clue what I'm looking at, they're going to fall back onto something. But you need to take all of the pressure off the sheets because that's not how you're going to be as a provider.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you know, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
You got, when we had, you know, a class and they're all on the sheets, and then all of a sudden, you know, they come into, you know, our fun scenario that we do, and
Oh
they're
my
just
God.
like, they have no fucking clue because none of what we do fits into their sheets.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's actually, you have to stop and think and combine a bunch of different shit together to get to the right answer and figure out what the fuck to do.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you see that deer in the headlights look, it's like, yeah, no, they've been on the sheets the whole fucking time, and now this is something they've never seen and they've never had to even think about because it doesn't fit in, you know, A, B, C, D, do me OPQRST, or where does it hurt? How are you going to ask the dude that's, you know, at the freaking desk with, you know, the twisted T's, where does it hurt?
Right.
You know, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
and,
there's
you
no
know,
pain involved. He's feeling no pain.
Right. Woohoo!
You know?
Shit.
Shit.
Shit. But you know, it's so true in the fact that we're almost miseducating the you know, providers of tomorrow, giving them a false foundation because we're not teaching them to critically think because we're reliant so hard on the sheet. So then, you know, how would you guys go about? Go ahead,
I was gonna say,
Gerard.
I would use the sheets in a classroom, for a classroom thing, for teaching the foundation, teaching the basics. Okay, we're gonna go in and we're gonna do a scenario. Let's go ahead, know your sheets to get you through learning how to BVM or learning how to work an AED or learning how to splint, that kind of shit. But then once you get past that learning phase and now you're into the application phase, where now we're gonna actually use this shit that you've learned. Sheets go bye, and keep them for reference, in case you need to freaking remember something. But now it's all scenario based training. Now it's all going to be,
But right
you walk
there,
in, the octopus that's trained in not letting go of the face is going to be there, all that shit.
Nice.
Right
I
there.
love
And
that.
that was a Fire Department Chronicles reference for anybody who doesn't know.
I know. Oh, it was
I didn't
great.
get it over my head.
Oh,
But right there
that
is
was
where
phenomenal.
the difference is, because especially like in the programs in our area, anybody can go to this class and they gear their education to the lowest level provider, and it shows. So when all of our people, so you're saying, I'm going to go with a 14-year-old that's never done this before, and then me who's had all this years of experience, and they're going to teach us at the exact same level because they have to, because anybody's allowed in these classes.
Mm-hmm.
And all these schools care about is their pass rates. They don't care about the provider they're putting on the street.
Nope.
And that's where this whole cookie cutter provider comes in.
So then my big question is, how do you guys believe we fix this?
You have to
From-
make it more competitive to get in. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a wait list because everybody wants to be a paramedic. Like, I remember when the local school started interviewing their candidates to get in, and everybody was up in arms about that. Like, I can't believe I have to do interview for this. I'm going to pay for the class. Who cares? Like, you should have to interview.
Yeah.
You should not be allowed as an EMT for less than a year to get into this program. Go
Right.
learn
Not only
your
did
shit.
not only did we have to interview, but you had to be an EMT for at least 1 year
Right.
before they even talk to you.
But now,
And then the next year it was like, okay, anybody, doors are open. But there is something to be said about, something
Having a foundation.
Something that is less accessible is worth more.
I agree. You
You know,
need to make
the
it more
value goes
competitive.
up.
so then how do you do that at the BLS level? Because these are people like ALS level. It's easy. Yeah. You suck. Like,
You suck.
you're not getting into my program.
But it's
Well, I
it's different
would
on a
honestly
BLS
have
level too, because like Kelsey and I had been riding on an ambulance since we were 14. So now we turned 17, we can finally do this. I've got 3 years experience.
Mm-hmm.
So should I not be allowed in because, or, somebody who maybe doesn't have that opportunity, they're not allowed in because they didn't have that, their local agency.
But again, that's what I'm saying. So
Right.
like you have to be lenient on the BLS providers, but that's still creating a possibility of having really shitty BLS providers.
100% cookie cutter.
so like you said with midterm stuff. I mean, you know me, I want to put a bell in the fucking in the classroom.
Ding.
I think that's the point. It's you get halfway through the course, okay, and now you're evaluated. We were evaluated halfway through ours, where they'd say, hey, here's where you at, here's where you need to freaking work on, or you just completely suck and maybe you should think about, doing something else.
Right.
But they
And
won't say that because they want your money for the class.
well, tough shit. I'm sorry. But no, I mean, I would say like halfway through there has to be a standard. You meet the bar, you continue on. You don't meet the bar, you get rolled back to the next class.
Yeah, and I
Because you
would-
can't keep dragging everybody else down
so
with people who don't want to put any effort in.
So I agree and disagree with that, and here's why. So I am so for the bell. I want the bell in the class, and I know that I would get fired so fast if I put a goddamn bell in the class. However,
I don't think so. I think it'd be great.
dude, I'd get fired so fast it wouldn't be funny. Because now you're going against New York State education law, where you can't parade a defeatist student, and mock a student in front of the rest of
But
them.
how many
for
people
poor
are
no,
going to
grades.
keep
or
going?
It's
whatever.
entirely
through
their
this?
choice.
But hold on. So
It's called drop on request. It's
For-
their choice.
forget the
They
bell.
just have to accept the shame.
But nobody's going to request that.
forget the bell. Forget the bell. The bell is just it's a fun thing that, yes, I wish we could do, right? We're not the SEAL
Yep.
team. It will not happen. However, from an educational standpoint, when you look at students who struggle to understand stuff, right? You always have that like sponge student, right? Could happen at a young age, could happen middle, adult, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you are putting so much effort into this kid or adult or whoever, and there is no return. They're not getting it. They're not going to get it. And ultimately, you can pull that student for as long as you can. But ultimately, there's going to come a point where they are now a waste of resources because you've come to the point where that sponge is full. They're not going any further. And the more time you're wasting on them, you're now neglecting the students that are going to succeed. So, and that's not everybody. You know, those are the very few students that are like that just aren't cut out for this. And ultimately, I think certain scenarios, certain tests, certain meetings with their educators weed those students out on their own. They come to the realization, hey, this isn't for me. Okay, cool. But I also think that starts day one when your education, you know, when your educator, your CIC sets the standard and expectations for the class. When they go, yeah, guys, this class is fucking hard. And I am going to, you know, literally drive your brain into the ground day after day after day. But you know what? You're going to come out a way better provider than anybody else. If you're committed 150 billion%, you're going to make it. If you're committed 99%, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it's going to be. Most educators will not set that standard because they want...
It's a numbers game.
They want the numbers game. They don't want to come into the class with 20 students and pass 3. They want to go in with 20 and pass 18.
Right, because then they can go and say, well, we have such a successful program. We want everybody's referrals to us. And that's where part of this issue comes. I disagree. Like, yes, the bell is funny, and I disagree with that because I shouldn't be shamed when I come to the realization that, like, this is not for me. That's okay. This is not for everyone.
Right.
I'm glad you realize that now in class instead of in front of a dying patient.
Damn Skippy.
That's when I want you to make that. So I don't want to embarrass you and say, like, go ring the bell. Like, I get it. It's funny. I love it. Do it. Put it in there.
I'd love it.
But I want that to be a conversation with me.
Yeah.
Because, like, maybe as an educator, and I'm not an educator, maybe that conversation with Turek, when they're talking to you, they'd be like, listen, I noticed you did really well in these 3 things. Maybe you should look at this career path.
Yeah.
Like, here's how I can help you. Because the other thing is when I come to the realization of, like, I'm shit at this, I need to find something else, they just put you back to the street and, like, good luck.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There's no other guidance.
There's been a lot of people. You know, I know what you're saying. I'm just also thinking of, there's been a lot of people that we've had that, you know, they get to that point where, oh, I'm shit at this, I suck. Meanwhile, they don't. It's just, you know, a little more effort is all they need, a little more, you know, motivation.
Right, motivation, confidence, whatever it might be.
Yeah, confidence, whatever it may be. Yeah,
hey,
and
Kelsey.
then, you know, there've been more than a few that, you know, they get to that point, you give them pep talk, all that good stuff, and all of a sudden they turn it around, and then all of a sudden they rock the house, and it's like, damn, all right, cool.
But maybe they're not ready at that point in their life to do that either. I mean, like,
yeah.
There's
There's definitely people that don't need to be doing this.
But 100%. But at 17, you're like, wow, I'm going to be a shitty paramedic. I'm going to drop this. But then at 20, 25, you'll be like, I can fucking rock the shit out of this. I'm ready. Yeah. And that, you know, you should be allowed to come back into it.
And that was me.
Absolutely,
when I got my EMT, I was 20, and I waited until I was 30 until I went to paramedic school. Or I was 29. I got it when I was 30. So it was, you know, and I had actually originally signed up for the same exact class, same exact school, different instructors, you know, whatever, like 4 years prior to that. I wanted to wait for my first recert. That was a choice by myself. And then during my second recert, everyone was like, oh, you should do it. You should do it. You should do it. They all started pressuring me. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And I physically, mentally was not ready. I wasn't ready to go back to school. It was literally like, I am going to fail at this. I don't want to do this.
Exactly.
And then I waited another 4 years until I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to rock this.
But that's exactly it. I mean, I've been in EMT for 12 years now. 12. And now is the first time that I thought, not the first, but like now is like, okay, I could get through paramedic school. I could be a good paramedic.
What?
I was way willing to go to nursing school before I was willing to go to paramedic, because the last thing the world needs is a fucking shitty paramedic. You can be a shitty nurse all you want and get away with it.
I mean, you can be a shitty paramedic and get away with it too.
Yeah, but why would you want to?
Because people do all the time.
Well, it's not like it pays well.
It doesn't make it okay.
I
feel like if I was going to be crappy at my profession, just get by day by day, I'd go with something that pays a little bit more.
At least I paid well to be a shitty nurse.
I mean, that's true.
You're like
But if I had tried this 10 years ago and then dropped out of it, that would have been my, and if it was my decision, does that mean like, oh, well, you failed out, 10 years ago, you can never come back? Like, no, because you grow as a human.
Yeah,
and that's why I think that should be a discussion between a student and their professor, as like this whole,
like
you're not
how
ready
many
yet.
people, this is a taxing career. How many people walk away and they just need a month off, 2 months off, even just take a week? They go away for a year because they're like, I need a break, and they come back.
It's glorious.
Doesn't make you a bad provider.
No.
Well, no. So where I was kind of going with was, have that like midpoint, mid-course evaluation, and not kick them to the curb and say,
Ring
you
the
suck.
bell.
Go, Burger King's hiring, I hear, but have it to where, hey, you know what? You're not meeting the standards. There's something going on. I don't know if it's a motivation thing or if it's a learning thing, whatever it is, but it ain't happening. So let's roll you back and you start the course again, the next time it starts.
Yeah,
so
and
maybe we can fix the problem.
One of the things too, Gerard, is, and I think this is a lack of education. Is going to just follow me for a second. There's a lack of education for the educators of EMS, right?
Yeah.
In that, the first thing, if I'm a CEO of a company, right, and we have really bad sales for the first quarter, right, and everything is down, production's down, value's down, stocks are down, everything is in the shitter. What am I going to do? I'm going to go, okay, where did I go wrong? What did I do to cause this? It's not the employee's fault. It's my fault because I own this business.
Right.
How many times do educators of EMS go in and go, okay, I just looked at a certain test. I looked at a certain quarter. I looked at a certain module. 5 of these students are not getting it, but they got the module before.
What happened?
I taught it the same. Did they understand it? Did I teach something differently? How did I fuck it up that they're not understanding it? If I can reevaluate my own performance, then go to them and go, okay, hey, this is what I noticed. I feel like you're on a down slope here. I want you on an up slope. Like, was it something that I did? Were you not getting the material? Was it a homework assignment that really tricked you? Like, what was it? And if they're like, yeah, you did it, then I need to physically change my program. If it's now I can sit there and go, hey, okay, it's not me. What did you not understand? That's, hey, is there a life event? Did your grandma just die and now you're slipping? And you know what? Okay, we're going to work through that together. We need to reevaluate, not just go, well, you don't understand, so get the fuck out.
But how many educators actually do that? How many times do you get a test
None.
and you have 50% of the class miss one question on it, and you go, well, I've had 10 classes before this and they've all done fine, so I don't know what the fuck is your guys' problem.
Right.
Well, maybe it's how you presented it.
Maybe that's a shitty question. You should fucking throw it away.
So the best thing that happened is my teacher my senior year, her policy was that if half the class got the question wrong, automatically the points are revoked. It wasn't counting towards your grade, which, whatever, at the end of the day, a grade's a grade. I mean, maybe to one person that's the difference between passing and failing. But then she would sit there and she would go through the question. She would go through each answer and and more often than not, half the class that got it wrong there was the 3 people that chose some random answer because they took a wild guess, but everybody else chose the same wrong answer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She would walk
'Cause
through
it's
it
a
and she'd
bad
be like,
question.
okay, and
Exactly.
she would find a way to reteach it so we would understand.
Exactly.
And even if she had to reteach an hour-long lesson plan based on one question,
Yep.
because in her mind, either it was a bad question or she didn't teach it to the effect that she should have.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the sign of an educator who understands. It's on me at the end, right? I'm the CEO of that classroom. So I can't just sit there and go, okay, memorize your sheets and you'll be fine out there. You can't do that. You have to teach them how to work through problems critically, right? We all want the critically thinking EMT and paramedic. The only way you get that is
By making them think.
By making them think, right? Give
I was
them
gonna say,
give them
Yeah,
easy scenarios, but give them
Difficult
hard
ones, too.
scenarios too, where
Yeah.
they're put under a little bit of pressure, where they have to think critically, where how am I going to get this patient out safely? How am I going to give this certain, if it's, ALS, how am I going to give this certain medication? Like, am I going to need to call a doc for this weird thing? These are things that they need to be going through. We talked in the last episode about doing the crazy, nonsense calls, but also doing the mundane calls. You need to have these people sit there and go through a lift assist with grandma that just wants to tuck your ear off, or, the slightly more confused nursing home patient that possibly has a UTI, but is completely BLS stable. And all you're going to do is transport them taking vital signs. But you need to understand that that's 99% of our calls. The, massive upside down intubation with one hand while you're sucking a cock in one arm, and under a
Wait,
tanker.
what? What the hell scene are you on?
Oh, look, you paid attention.
Oh, wait, hold on. He did
What
say he
kind
was
of
the
provider are you?
You're on
the
our
greatest provider ever.
yeah you're on our last Patreon episode.
I was gonna say he is the head instructor. So,
but realistically, you need those crazy calls, but you also need the realistic calls too. Right. And the only way that you're going to do that is by setting up lab in a way that you're teaching these students, to be prepared for the out of hospital scenario. We should be teaching them how to be clinicians in the field and not just mundane list followers. Because how many times have you got, Gerard, you said it earlier, deer in the headlights kind of look. You go in and we are so focused on, okay, I've done this. What now do I do? Okay, I'll just sit here for 30 minutes until a paramedic gets here. No, do something.
Yeah. Right.
Do something. Just because it's not on your sheet doesn't mean you don't have to do something. But we don't teach that.
I feel like also to a certain extent, eventually, in traditional EMT classes, even if you say 3 months, that's 12 weeks that you are in the same lab rooms. And even the best of instructors, and I've been put through some phenomenal scenarios, at the end of the day, it is still your instructors. You can kill this patient as many times as you want, and they are still going to grade you and wake back up afterwards.
Yep.
And I feel like that's where, you're most important, and what makes or breaks you as a provider, yes, is in the lab, but I feel like even more than that is where you do your ride time. And I feel like if you're going to get rid of your PSEs and your standardized testing, then you need to have a more standardized reason for your preceptors. Because every paramedic functions differently, so you should have to ride with 3 different medics at 2 different agencies because, it's going to be a pain in the butt, but at the end of the day, you're going to get 3 different perspectives, and you're going to be able to pick and choose what you like and what you don't like, and have that one main person to track your progress. But after that, if you want to go ride with 10 different people on 10 different shifts just to see how they do it and what they do differently, then I think that you should be able to, because that is what is going to make or break you. Because when somebody's watching over your shoulder in that real life situation.
That's also why I say you should never do your clinical ride time at your home agency. You're way too fucking comfortable there.
Yeah.
Go out, see the world, see how everybody else does it, take the best of everything you've ever learned from anyone and put it together.
And also at the other point too is, I think, at least in New York State, New York has laxed the ride time requirements for BLS, not so much ALS, but for the BLS provider, so much. I mean, just in the time that I have been a provider. So I got my EMT cert in 2007. In 2007, I needed to do 24 hours of inpatient, like not inpatient, in person, on an ambulance, patient contact hours. I needed X amount of cardiac, X amount of respiratory. Those are the only two that I needed. But I needed to do 24 full hours. Then I also needed to do 8 hours of in-hospital ER time where I could do patient assessments. I could do, follow around the nurse and the doctor. I could do vital signs. Like, I could just be helpful, getting comfortable with talking to people. Now, you need to do 8 hours in a truck, in an ambulance, 0 calls.
Keep guessing, because
or there's a
class just went through that. They had 0 ride time.
Like
0.
Yeah. Like
that was how my EMT class was because of COVID. Agencies were refusing students at the time.
Right. Now, COVID, I can understand. That's going to put, the whole monkey wrench into the system. I get it. But we're post-COVID. We're getting back to real life here, and if we don't up the stand, most of these programs, there's nothing that says this is the minimum. There's nothing that says you can't add on to the minimum as a CIC, and this is your class. Your class
like the
is
minimum number
be,
of pieces of flair. Yeah.
So, New York State can say they can hand down, you need 8 hours in a truck. Well, I could say, as the head CIC of my program, I could say you need to do
12 hours in a truck and 8 hours in a hospital.
Or
Whatever
I could say you need to do 12-hour shifts through the program. Boom.
But then also on the flip side of that is if I can go through and I can, you're going to get those people that would rather take your class, but why am I going to go take your class and you're going to make me do all this free labor when I can go take XYZ fire department's class and do none of that and still end up with the same certification?
Because I'll still pass the state test and all I care about is the pass rates. And that's where this comes back to.
Yeah. But I get where Kelsey's
coming from. It's hard to
be
the one outlier program.
As a student, I can see where, where that might be. Like, if you're new and you're a BLS provider, right? Or not, just say you're just Joe Blow that wants to do an EMT program, right? And you're searching around and you're looking through all of these requirements and stuff, and you do see, Turek's program, all of these requirements, but then you see, Smith's program, and it's half of that at the same cost. You're going to be like, oh, well, fuck it, that's less work. However, I also think that if you're coming from a background of you've been riding at an agency because you're a junior, or you're a volunteer that's just not certified in anything, or you're on a fire department or whatever, and you're now like, I'm going to get my EMT, I think the people that are in the know will sit there and be like, it'll just be like any other medic program. You go to X medic program because it's better. Yeah, you're going to go through the ringer, but you're going to come out better.
But part of that is also, I'm going to tie into nursing because I went to a nursing program that had higher requirements than anywhere else in New York State. So I had to do an extra 200 clinical hours over any other nursing program in New York State. And part of that is I'm going there.
You got a badass over it.
Okay.
Just for you.
Part of that is their placement is better. Their providers are coming out of school smarter, more prepared. That spoke to itself. When you look at EMS education and all they're looking at is the pass rate at the end of the class, they're not looking at how good your providers are in the field. So when you go and you're on a call and you're like, that was the worst provider I have ever seen in my life.
But the thing, too, that you have to remember is the pass and fail rate. So at least, again, New York State specifically, right? when I'm being evaluated as a CIC, I'm being evaluated on my pass fail rate.
Exactly. But nothing
right?
further.
But the students are not being evaluated on anything outside of the, like, they're not going, oh, well, how many are placed? How many are this? How many have 5 or more years in EMS service? There's none of that.
Right.
It's and the crazy thing about New York State, and this is what's just blows my mind, right? I could start with 20 students, right? I could test 5, right? I lose 15 students in my class. I send 5 to the state final. All 5 pass.
100% pass
I
rate.
have a 100% pass rate.
Wow.
Not 25%. I have a 100% pass rate because it's all the amount that you send to the test, not that you start with.
But that's what I'm saying. Why is
logic.
that the
Yeah, right?
the benchmark in EMS?
Is garbage.
That's not the benchmark in other professions.
Right.
In nursing, you start with 30 and you graduate 20. That counts against you as a program.
Yeah. Yeah, and where's why is that metric like that?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I'm not an educator. I have no idea.
I'm an
Turek,
educator and
help me.
I don't even know. Fuck if I know.
But you see it even in our area up here, like, oh, that was a really shitty paramedic. They went to Y school.
Right.
And that's why everybody goes to X school. And they're like, well, they just put out better providers.
Right.
So, like, you see that. But at the same time, if it's cheaper to go to X school and the requirements are less, why wouldn't I do that?
Why wouldn't I do that? Yeah.
Easy
But
way
also,
out.
if you think about it too, is you're basing it specifically on, like, you know, I got into this and I'm going to X school because every paramedic that I've ever worked with told me that this was a school if I wanted to go be a paramedic to work with. If you talk at an EMT level, Joe Schmo, who saw, you know, some really cool movie or did a CPR class once or had the red, like, whatever reason you got into EMS, isn't going to know that, you know, Turk's class is better than Joe Schmo's class, even though he has all these requirements. So he's going to go to Joe Schmo's class. And the people in Turk's class already do 30 hours a week volunteer time, so they might not necessarily need all that extra ride time that random guy off the street needs.
Right. And that's kind of what I was alluding to.
Everything in this business is word of mouth,
even with
which
that,
makes it very hard for new people to get in and know what's good and what isn't.
Even with that,
and that actually, I was gonna say that actually harkens back to what Emily was saying way back to in the beginning of this, and that is, when you have something that's more difficult to even get into, its value is
way higher,
way much more than it's way higher. Because when I decided to go to make my choice to go to either X or Y, I signed up to go to X and I went through the screening process and all that stuff where it wasn't guaranteed that I was going to get in, and it was when I got in, it was like, all right, I'm in now. I need to make the best of this. This is
exactly.
this is the fucking major leagues here.
Right. I mean, and you look at it. Look at all of the higher level colleges that people flock to, right? Boston University, Harvard, Yale, Cornell, all of these higher level institutions, right? They have lines out the door to get in and be rejected. But yet people always sit there and go, because they provide the best quality education, but they're the fucking most ridiculous, hardest programs to get into.
Right.
There's a reason behind that, because they're the best, right? You are competitive if you make it competitive if you're the best. If you're just Joe Blow's program, whatever, Corey and Topanga reference, if you're Boris College, right? Thank you for getting that, Em. I appreciate the one movie reference I drop in a while. She gets is perfect gold for me. It's gonna be treated as such.
I didn't get it.
I know you didn't.
What?
That's why he didn't watch Boy Meets World. I know. It's shock.
You're showing your age, Gerard.
Wait, how did I get the reference and Gerard didn't?
Right?
Because to me, Fred Savage was the Wonder Years.
Fred Savage wasn't in it.
I thought Fred Savage was in Boy Meets World, right?
Calm down, old man. Go take your air sip.
Oh my God.
Fred Savage was in Boy Meets World in the 7th season when they were in college. He played a college professor, but it was
okay.
it was Ben Savage, his younger brother, that played Corey, the main character of Boy Meets World.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
yes, Fred Savage was the Wonder Years. Ben Savage was Corey Matthews.
You know how I feel.
You got me
all
up
the
too
time.
late. You know, I already missed Matlock because of you.
He's on to Murder, She Wrote, and then Columbo.
MASH will be on soon. Don't worry.
Let me know how Columbo smokes his cigar tonight.
I think he's going to forget to ask a question.
So yeah, I ultimately think if you make a competitive EMT program that is harder to get into, I think you guys are on the right track in that. I
think that would help solve a lot of your, where you're trying to pull the hair out of your head about what to do about education. And I really do think if you want to us to be elevated in stature as a whole, and your whole thing is, well, we have to do better with the education. Well, there's one thing right there, and even with EMT, starting with an EMT original class, don't make it where, hey, put another $1 in, you got to you got to check, you're in. No, make it a selective process where, hey, we have 15 slots, and we'll interview, 50, and out of the 50, we're taking the 15 that interviewed the best, and that's it, done.
Yeah. You know why that will never happen specifically in our area? Because there's a shortage. There's a staffing shortage.
Your point?
And their solution is to put as many EMTs, get as many EMTs through the class and put them on an ambulance because it's a body and a seat.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
mantra right now.
That is the mantra right now. That doesn't mean that Turek wouldn't do that in his next EMT class.
You should interview them.
I mean,
let me sit in, please.
Okay, but also you are one person turning out 30 EMTs a year.
Okay.
Granted, I will give it to you that 30 EMTs a year is, say you have a class of 15 for 2 semesters. 30 EMTs a year is a lot, but a lot of it also comes as what happens after your EMT class. I mean, you can preach good values all you want. If they don't go to an agency where that's going to happen, or there's not continuous education or anything like that, I mean, there's only so much you can do. And it's the whole, you pick up the one jellyfish and you put it in the ocean and, there's a million other jellyfish, but for that one jellyfish, you change that one little jellyfish life. You're changing those 30 people's lives, and hopefully they go and change more people's lives. But at the end of the day, you were 3 months of their life, and a lot of it also comes afterwards.
I mean, the hope is that you change it one at a time because, you have to change our system sucks.
Yeah, our system's broke.
And you have to change it from ground zero up. And the hope is that out of those 30 students, that if you change or form the way they think out of 15 of them, that's 15 people that are going to go preach your values.
Yeah.
And that's all you can hope for.
And we said it in the last episode that we have to start getting in the mindset of, we talk about Foster all the time. Right? We talk about Mark all the freaking time, right? He's our hero, but Gerard, myself, Emily, Corey, all of us are the generation of providers that are going to be Mark's replacement.
Yeah.
Right? And Kelsey is our replacement. So if we can...
you guys aren't going anywhere yet? I'd just like to make that known.
I'm not going anywhere anytime soon because I have a computer in my chest. But realistically, that's the way we have to think about it, right? So if we can sit there and go, okay, our generation of providers, right, our age group of providers can sit there and take the Kelseys of the world, which that is a lot of sunshine and unicorns and rainbows up everyone's butt. But if you could take
way too much,
if you could take the Kelseys
I have
of the
no
world,
unicorns. I don't believe in unicorns.
Glitter.
Yeah, glitter.
Wait a minute. You don't believe in
No.
unicorns?
Glitter is an STD you can't get rid of.
Yeah, but that's what we need to be. We need to not get rid of us.
That's it.
Sprinkle your glitter everywhere.
But that's it. And I am of the opinion of you, Em, in that if I can sit there and I can take one Kelsey and bring them to preach to the masses the best way of doing EMS, then maybe as those old curmudgeons get out and as our generation gets older and gets out, they're now teaching the next generation.
That's how you change EMS.
That it needs to start from the providers that are going to be in our spot in 20 years.
Exactly.
Because you and I are in this 15 years, right? And eventually we're going to be in it, 30 and be getting out of it. Well, now Kelsey's in it for 15 years, and she's going to be in our spot. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing to bring up the next people?
Exactly.
And I also feel like, specifically to like me, was with a junior since I was 14. So I always have had the running joke in my head that I was like, you see people do things and you're like, wow, like I would never do it like that way. And then in my back of my head, it's like, oh, like I was raised by like the Yateses of EMS and like the people that actively want to make a change and a difference. And yes, I do attribute a lot of it to you and Corey M. So thank you guys.
My heart is
Because if you think about it, I was raised by people like you guys and other providers at our agency who were actively invested in helping, the 14, 15-year-old get involved and learn. And like, those are the providers that I feel like, had I gone into a different agency that would have just eaten me alive and chewed me up and spit me out because I was just a useless 15-year-old who knew absolutely nothing about anything, probably wouldn't be the provider that I'm going to be when I get out of paramedic school.
But when you're a paramedic and now you have an intern, you're never going to treat somebody like, oh, well, you're just useless. You have no education. Like, it is what it is. You're just the helper. You're going to make them a better provider. And that's the glitter you need to sprinkle.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've showed up like as a BLS provider with first responders and I'll be like, hey, like grab me a blood pressure. Exactly. And I had one that looked at me and he's like, I can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do that? And he's like, mind you, he did not look 16. Apparently he was 16. He's like, well, haven't been trained in that. Like, I'm 16, first day here. And it's like, okay, well, today's the day we're going to learn now.
Here, let me show you. Instead of being like, oh, get out of my way. Here, let me show you.
Exactly.
Like, and I've got the time to show you. They're not dying.
And
that's the mindset.
That is the mindset that we have to spread everywhere.
Exactly.
Right? It's the take you under your wing kind of thing for the people that are worth it. There's always going to be and this is frank. There is always the provider that you look at that goes, yep, I am not going to waste my time. Because you know what? I have all the best intentions, but they don't want it. I'm going to then take the Kelseys of the world, who clearly I see want to be the best, and spend my time there and not spend my time on just wasted energy. And
I feel like it's...
Go ahead.
Sorry. I feel like it's really important to know, too, is like when you mention the people that you don't want to waste your time on, you're mentioning the people that don't have a desire to get better. Because, like, we have all met that provider who, at the beginning, when you first met them, whether they were in your EMT class or whatever, you were scared. You were like, they are going to take care of my family one day. And, like, I am nervous. And then, you saw them 3 years later, and because they had that desire to keep learning, you were like, I would want you to treat me over the other half the people I knew back when we graduated EMT class. And I feel like it's important to note that, like, you might not, just because you might not, naturally get it, or your IV skills are absolutely terrible, or whatever it may be, that, like, if you have the desire to learn and be better, even if it takes triple the amount of time to help you figure it out, like, there are people that are going to help you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Follow my philosophy. If you're going to go down in flames. Don't go down like a punk.
But find them. If you're at an agency and, you're not getting it or you're not improving and you're like, wow, I just don't get this, find somebody that's going to help you, not somebody that's going to sit on their ass and fucking nap on the couch.
You have to be active in this business. Like, if you are not a go-getter,
get out.
You not even just get out, but you need to really look deep inside of you and figure out how you can become a go-getter, because you need to be active. You need to sit there and be like, oh, hey, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
So,
I love it when an EMT asks me a question like, why did I do that? Or, how to do something, or I mean, I've had them where that, like, literally just like what you said, where, I'm like, all right, let's throw the 4-lead on, and it was a volunteer provider, and they're like, I don't know how to do that, and I said, okay, well, here's how we do it.
Yep.
All right, and I handed them the stuff and told them where to put it.
But even like every single day.
But I enjoy stuff like that. Like, when an EMT after a call or something, where I'm working, and they're like, hey, what was the deal with that? Why did you want to do that, or why didn't you want to do this? And then I get to freaking go over things and go right down the whole freaking rabbit hole, and it's it's kind of a cool thing to do.
Well, and then that makes you better too, because like the whole thing is, there's that whole saying like, oh, well, those that can't do teach, but like if you can actively teach it back to somebody, you can do it no problem. And I feel like an important thing to know too is like, you ask for help, and like you've got that person and they're like, F you, whatever, you should already know that, blah, blah, blah. Go ask again. I mean, when we did Airway Day in class, like I think I had like, I don't know, every instructor ever came up and showed me how to do the intubation. It was like, this is just not clicking in my head. Like, I can do it. It doesn't feel right. Like, something's not right. And then I went back and Turk showed me how he did it, and that was what clicked for me. And there are other people that, like, instructor A is what clicks for them versus, paramedic 7894 is what clicks for them. Mm-hmm. There are so many people who do it in this business so many different ways that if, like, one person isn't getting you what you need, go ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the best things is, that law of primacy, where things that are first learned are best remembered. And even to this day, I will never forget that if I have to intubate somebody from a sitting position, because of my height, I have to do a gangster lean, because our instructor that day, I was like, I was like a monkey fucking a football. I'm like, I don't know, man. The tube was in the guy's ass, and I don't know how it got there, And he's like, no, you're too tall to be intubating like that, in a sitting position, in that position. You need to, and in his words, like, you got to get that gangster lean going. And that just clicked in my head. And as soon as I did that lean back, a little cock to the side, boom. I was nailing it every fucking time.
That would be the thing that clicks with you.
A 10 mil flush every time because I didn't have my glasses, but, but I got it.
Right. So, So we're running super long on this one, but I think, all of the information that we're talking about, I loved listening to this discussion, because it really lends itself to a lot of the issues that we've been having. And I think, again, there's so many running themes of our show. I mean, I literally need to make a list of running themes in this show, because now we're getting up into, the 40 episode marks, and wow. Right? This is episode 41 on free versions. There's even more on Patreon. So it's really tough to remember all of our running things that we do, but education standards and, everything that we spoke about today, and just trying to change education and EMS culture as a whole, really starts at the provider, right? You have to be a provider to be an educator in this business. If you're not changing as a provider and taking the things that we don't know, and we're not the end all be all, but I think one of the greatest things that we do in this show is we display and present solutions that nobody wants to talk about, right? Yeah. There is no fear on this show to call you out and be like, you suck, right? The way you've been doing it sucks. The way you're gonna do it sucks. Stop doing it because you suck, right? We are very vocal in how much this industry sucks as a whole. And we don't just jam around, about how much we suck. We give you solutions to try, ideas to think about, to bring to your boards, to bring to your agencies. And, I know there's agency heads that listen to this show, and I know there's a lot more providers that listen. But if the providers aren't going, hey, you know what? I heard this really good idea. Let's bring it to the next board meeting. Let's bring it to my supervisor. Let's bring it somewhere. That's how this industry is going to change. Is not going to change because they're 18, agency heads are listening to this show and they all go, well, one day we were we were listening to this show and Gerard had this great idea and now we're just going to listen to Gerard.
Never once.
Never once.
Never.
That's not. Would
Rubble.
you pipe down, Rubble? Gosh, that itch must be really bad. But
Our mascot.
that's not how it's going to
That's a poor
change.
guy scratch.
I know, right?
Poor pup.
But he was really going at it on that one. But
You're anti-canine.
Yeah, are you kidding me? But
I want everybody to know that the last time that I was over there, he actually let Rubble sit on his lap for like 30 seconds, but it was there.
It was there. Yep, it happened. Oh man. So any last thoughts from you guys before we wrap this up for this portion of the month? We beat this dead horse pretty dead.
Crickets.
Yeah, just
Do better.
I don't know.
Just do better.
There you go, Em. Just do better. See, that needs to be a sound
stop
bite. Just do better.
I have a shirt with that. Do better.
All
See,
right.
and I want a shirt that says "Just stop it."
Just stop
I
it.
can make that happen.
Just stop it.
I know a shirt
Oh,
guy.
but
We know a
I
shirt
feel
guy.
so
That's
bad
true.
because this, that, and the other thing. Just stop it.
Just I love it. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, we will see you on May 15th. Hopefully, I am crossing my fingers that we can make this happen. We are planning a humongous surprise for May 15th. If it comes down to fruition, we will have the biggest guest that we've ever had on this show, who is an EMS firefighter and EMS paramedic, as well as your only hint, the most famous EMS artist in probably the world. So if we can make that happen, we are going to be talking to that individual on May 15th. If not, I will damn sure make sure it happens
Now you have to.
at some point soon. So we will keep you up to date on that. Till next time, guys, stay safe out there.
Montequias.
Oh, not the same.
Yeah, I don't like that. Boo.
What?
That was for
Where's
J-Lo.
soundbite?
What?
J-Love doesn't listen to this.
I know.
Do it again.
Donuts.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you'd like more information on the podcast or to send us a call to review, visit medicmaterials.com/podcast. To learn more information, like us on Facebook at Medic Materials EDU, or watch our weekly instructional videos on the Medic Materials YouTube channel.